sometimes you can just do it again. Checking my network. My network looks good, but we are not latching. Okay, we got something. All right, touch and go, folks. pjnet.tv 930. We have a bumper running, and if you do Studio 36 Alpha, starting, well, pretty soon. How about now? Oh, I wanted to do this. Hadn't done that in a while. Okay, well, welcome. Yeah, and of course, JD, you pointed out, and I am aware, and you have made it public that you do not firebrand your cattle, but couldn't resist the thing there, folks. As I mentioned, we are once again having difficulty between here and the restreaming server that sends it to all the places we go. I am not going to attempt to mitigate it because it distracts me from what stream will reappear further up the feed and start over. If you're on YouTube, a new YouTube will start. But for those of you in the chat room, well, maybe you need to go to Facebook to watch this. It is Thursday night. It is the night that we have a special place for a very special person in the pjnet.tv family. And that would be JD and steward thereof, and he joins us all the way from Cooper, Texas. And JD, I sorry we're having a rough ride again tonight, but you're not a stranger to rough rides, being on the.
That's all right, Coach. We got Vaseline. We'll get through this.
We got whatever it takes, and I see the signal coming and going.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
good folks there.
Yeah. Well, forget all that. The good news is there are so many things that we could be.
Army worms on the cross W this week, Coach. Now, next week, them little buggers liable to make a return. But for right now, I bet you I've killed 10 million of them rascals out there.
And the birds are fat.
They just make such a mess. And all except for 2 years. Now, we've been here 8 years, so 6 out of the 8 years, we've had an infestation of army worms. And they almost always started my westernmost pasture. And, I mean, they just eat the blades of grass. They really start early in the morning when it's cool, you know. And them little buggers can eat an acre of land in just a couple of hours. There's that many. There's all kinds of stuff you can step in out there in pasture, Coach. And within 15 seconds, just a terrible mess. And, you know, of course, we knew to be ready. So I had my spray rig all sitting here actually under the carport. And I had the chemicals that I needed, the insecticides and things, and had the water hose. I'm ready to go. This ain't going to take long to get ready, because when you start to see about 3 of them per square foot, you know you've got a heavy infestation coming, and they're going to do some damage. So we try to hit them as quick as we can, and that we use for the most part. Very little residual, so it doesn't last very long. If you don't get them in that first pass, you're going to have to make a second pass, right? And understanding that, so we're all, they're coming your way, JD. You know, be watching for them. But next week they'll be there, And man, I can't cut hay because I got army worms eat my hay before I can get it cut. And God decided to blow up a bad wind, and we dealt with 15 to really, I saw it gust up to 30 miles an hour a couple of times. But you can't spray insecticides based on the size of the droplet that's coming out of the sprayer and the wind as to how far that stuff can carry. Well, you don't want that stuff getting in your water supply is planted and growing. So there's some things you can't even use here in Delta County. But, you know, I knew the insecticide was safe and everything was good, but I'd have had to been out on the highway to have sprayed my pasture, to even posted a prayer, Lord, please call these winds so I can spray these army worms, And several times a day I'm praying and I'm checking and it ain't happening. And I've got a little handheld anemometer, that stick out there and find the wind, and it'll measure, and I'll go in winds like that. So I'm sitting there at 7 a.m. Oh, I think this was Wednesday morning, and they'd been eating on my grass since Saturday, Coach. And I was out by the hay barn, and it just fed the barn cat, and just lamenting, just complaining to God. God, why aren't you listening to me? And right there's my western pasture and my sprinkler heads for the aerobic septic system and things and all that. There were hundreds of little bitty barn sparrows setting. They weren't flittering about, and because they're all on the ground and they're just feeding their faces, just eating army worms as fast as they can eat, And it hit me. I answered it, I wanted him to knock the wind out. And he said, no, I'd rather feed my birds first, if that's all right with you, JD, And so kind of the lectures. He says, yes. He says, no. And he says, just hang on, because I've got something better in the works, Well, in this example, what he taught me was to look up. There's a fourth option. Look up, because what I didn't realize until that morning when I seen all them birds eating my armyworms, was that God had already told me, yes, he'd already sent the solution to the problem. He's got all these birds. I mean, hundreds of them, maybe 1,000 birds all over that back pasture, just wearing it out, Coach. And like I said, they weren't flying; they were just walking around, just and they'd move from one and going, Bob, we ain't got to worry about them worms too much right now, because I don't think some of these birds are going to be able to fly. They're going to be too fat to get off the ground, Coach, that, sometimes we get so tunnel vision. We put our blinders on. We get so focused on what we want God to do. But a good lesson for me to keep in my heart, Coach. And so, start looking for them blessings. They may not be coming. We find the same thing dealing with our wives. She'll prepare something one way, and I'll do it a different way, right? I do laundry different than Miss Diane does. We both end up with clean. In this case, I wanted to get rid of the army worms. God wanted to feed his birds first. Right. And there you go. So, got my place, got my neighbor's 40 acres. We got rid of the army worms. We're hoping for the entire year, Coach. But the blessing, because chances are he's already given you what you need. It may not be what you want, but he's giving you what you need. He always meets your needs. Right?
And behind you back there, is that part of our object lesson tonight?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Coach. Hold on.
Be right back. Yeah, see this, because if there's any question that this is live, now you know the answer. Okay, and JD can't hear me right now.
See what happens when a fat guy tries to move, Coach.
Well, you have no idea what I was saying about you.
When you spray pesticides of some kind, Coach, and I'll drop it down lower so it's in English and Spanish, right?
Okay.
Kind of needs that around here. And pesticide is that you're applying when you applied it.
Right.
And the REI, or re-entry interval.
Right.
So it's a familiar with that. But the poison control and all the information that someone would need if they wandered upon me and I sprayed them with my sprayer, because I'm of this insecticide. So having that is just a warning, just a CYA to make sure. So no, that's a new erasable. Use it again and again and again, sir.
Okay.
Sorry, I just had it in the view. Sorry, sir.
I happened to notice it. We have not talked about it on some of the things that you have spoken about tonight, but I do have a very pragmatic question, and it's a sincere question. Maybe I'm missing something, but why don't you just spray that stuff at night when the winds are lower?
Yeah.
Turn the lights on.
So they yes, sir. They come out early morning after sunrise, and they'll feed till about 10:30 in the morning, and then they'll hide. And
you mentioned your 3-point hitch and PTO. That I've seen these sprayers. They're wide. They cover a large area. How much area is affected? Do you have to use a tractor?
That back pasture alone, The one in the picture behind you is 11 acres, Coach.
That'd be a pretty long walk.
That's a lot of square footage.
Yeah.
Is just over 1.25 acres, I think, Coach.
Okay.
And I use prayer, and I just hit a button and
get a little electric pump.
Yep. Back, and off it goes.
Yeah.
12 feet at a time.
In Central Florida, but I've moved to North Florida early in my childhood. But up here we have worm grunting. Y'all do worm grunting down there? Worm. He acts like he can't hear me or something. Okay. Did I lose you there? I hear you fine. This end you can hear me, but maybe not.
I'm hearing you now, Coach. Go ahead.
I don't know.
No, sir, I'm not.
JD. Oh, my goodness.
I'm sorry.
Oh, my gosh.
What is worm grunting?
Yeah, well, we grunt for worms. Okay, what you do is you drive a stake in the ground like a tube. You rub it across the top of that 2x4 and it sets up vibrations in the ground. And guess what them worms do? That's too. You're going to kill many of the ones you're trying to harvest, because you're using, even with potato rake or something.
I've never heard of that technique.
Two copper rods. You connect, get you some jumper cables, positive on one rod, negative on the other, and worms will find their way out. That were two observations that I made. First of all, you were not yours.
Yes.
I wonder when Jesus healed the 10 lepers, only one came back to say thank on them. But I do know this, in child rearing, it's a whole lot easier to teach a child to say please than to say thank you.
And it's just say thank you. Yes.
Okay. Quick to ask the Lord for things. We're pretty good on the please
all
stuff.
The time.
We're not quite as good on that thank you part, so we are not much better than an immature child. God fix this. God fix my broken toys, and He does.
And it starts with an underscore AA underscore is praise Jesus. So if you can open any day of the year, open my daily prayer list, and it's like 38 people long right now. But you open it up, and the very first to do it during my God time in the morning before I get my day started. But then as I go throughout the day, man, I pray for rain, I pray for sun and things. And I'm constantly asking God to walk with me around the cross W. But I realized I don't always, like you said, I don't always say thank you. I try to at the end of the day, right? Yeah. Lord, thank you for this good day. Give me another day here, Lord. Help me do something that honors you. And I get out of bed and I get my day started. But throughout the day, just say that. We need to recognize His sovereignty in our lives, and we don't always do that, do we?
Yeah. Relief, whatever that relief, help.
Yeah.
And He gets it. We need to be disciplined to say thank you, which we need times that we won't know this side of heaven. But I look forward to watching what I call watching the game film in heaven, where God shows me, and I'm stretching it a bit, but bear with me to make the point. You're praying for the wind to die down so that you can use your tractor to apply the spray to kill the worms. So you just didn't know that there was some situation that would use example, but if you drove the tractor temporarily on,
shaft could have shattered,
right? Or you had to temporarily use the roadway, and examples of that are documented. The most notable of which was a person, or a young lady, or a lady. Okay, well, for those, just in case you aren't. And angry, she had to stop at a store. That was on September the 11th of 2001, and her office was at the World Trade Center. So, and recognize that we have a duty, a responsibility to exercise control over things that we can control, and say, God, I've done my part. Take over, God. It's in your hands.
Yeah, the rest is up to you.
But don't cheat. don't cheat. If you do, God, I promise you, I'm going to plant more next spring than anybody else. It just find God.
I think my takeaway from this whole thing was I had to ask myself, and I'll never know this answer this side, because I was looking for my answer.
Mm-hmm.
The answer that I wanted God to give me, not the answer that He gave me. I wonder how many blessings I've missed in that blessing in your life. If you're walking with the Lord and you're serving Him and you're honoring Him with your life, He's expect it. But look up and expect those blessings.
Mm-hmm. You are probably familiar in combat with the doctrine of hypervigilance. You would be situationally aware. Any little thing could be a clue that could save your life. Well, isn't it?
Always be looking for, and I like to think, Coach, that I'm always looking for lessons. I'm